Hello and welcome to another video. Today I am going to be talking about some thriller books I have read recently, and hopefully you can get some recommendations from this video. Hopefully you can find something that you would enjoy. There have been a few rereads on this list. There's a few new releases on this list, so it is pretty much a mixed bag, but I am going to bring you my spoiler-free thoughts. So if you would like to know more about these books, then please continue watching. I do plan on doing these thriller review videos more often. I love reading thrillers. It's one of my favorite genres, and if I can find a if someone can find like a good thriller book off of one of my videos, then that would make me very happy. And if someone can like maybe steer clear of something that is not for them, then that will also make me happy. So without further ado, let's get into reviewing some of these books. The first book I have here is The Night Swim by Megan Golden, and I originally listened to this on audiobook. So in this we follow Rachel Kral, Kral, and she is a true crime podcaster, and she needs a blockbuster for her next season of her podcast. And she decides to take on a live SA case. This is between an Olympic swimmer and a girl from the town. But she starts receiving letters from someone saying that her sister Jenny, is it Jenny? I'm pretty sure it's Jenny. Yeah, pretty sure it's Jenny. Because it's Hannah and Jenny. I'm pretty sure it's Jenny. So she starts receiving letters from Hannah speaking about her sister Jenny, who was murdered. But the official story is that she wasn't murdered, she drowned. So she's not only looking into the live essay case going on for her podcast, she's looking into Hannah's sister's death. And I do believe that if you want to read this, I would highly recommend the audiobook. If you don't know, I am a huge, huge picky person. That was a weird way to say that. That was so weird. What I'm picky when it comes to audiobooks. I tend to prefer reading physically, physical editions, books. I also like reading on my Kindle. Audiobooks, I don't feel like I get immersed in them enough. I feel like I miss things. I feel like sometimes the story isn't as good. This is one of the exceptions. The audiobook for this is very well done and I highly recommend. And after having reread this physically, I recommend it even more because I did enjoy the audiobook experience more than the physical experience, which is unheard of for me. This book was it was good. It was really, really good. The first time I read it, I gave it 5 star on the audiobook. But the second time when I reread it, I gave it 4 star. I think the audiobook would still stand at a 5 star. But it's so hard to judge. This is why I'm not really an audiobook person because I find it hard to put the physical and the audiobook together in my head, and the experiences can lead to different ratings regardless of story. Anyways, that's total tangent. Let me get back to this book. Podcast element, which I know some people don't. I personally love it. You will like this book. And like if you like just a crusader searching for the truth, a town with loads of like intricate secrets and folklore and just gossipy drama surrounding certain things, you will like this book. This is like a small town criminal crusader thriller. I don't know where I was going with that, but this is definitely worth picking up if you are into kind of like true crime podcasts, or if you're into vigilante justice, because I do believe that Rachel kind of has her own vigilante justice in this, along with Hannah, and everyone in this town who gets held accountable for things. It's a very good read. It is also comes with a lot of trigger warnings, so please look up trigger warnings if you're going to pick this up because there is a lot in this. It obviously follows a live SA case, and there is a lot of that kind of thing hidden in the past. So I would recommend trigger warnings, but I do think you should pick this up. It is one of the thrillers that I would recommend all the time. Next, we have The Housemaid, and also The Housemaid's Secret. So we're going to start off with The Housemaid because I don't there's not going to be any spoilers, but because The Housemaid's Secret is a sequel, there might be kind of a little bit of too much information about the first book. So if you have not read The Housemaid and you want to read it, then I would suggest skipping the Housemaid's Secret review. I will leave chapters linked down below so that you can easily skip me talking about the sequel. I am going to try and not spoil absolutely anything from any of these books, but this one might be a bit hard. So, in The Housemaid, we follow Millie, who is down on her luck. She just got out of prison and she's looking for a job. She's living in her car, and when she gets the opportunity to interview for a nanny position that is a live in sort of housemaid, essentially, with nanny and duties on the side sometimes, she jumps at the chance. She doesn't think she's going to get it, but she eventually does. And then she starts, like working for this family. And the wife, Nina, is really weird. Like she creates messes and she blames her for things and, kind of gaslights her into this horrible circumstances. This book was really well done. I have heard that this is kind of a like done before story, which everything is. At this point, everything has been done before. It's just a reiteration or a reimagining or, a new take on an old idea. But I did see that someone had wrote a book exactly like this, and people were saying that this book was not original in any sense. I cannot speak of that to that because I haven't read the book in question, but I enjoyed this. This was sneaky. There is a POV shift halfway through this book that instantly gets your brain ignited. Like I was like, I'm here. What is going on? I was reading this on my Kindle. I was flying through it. There was unlikable characters, shitty situations. There was, you know, the rehabilitation of someone coming out of prison and getting put into a situation like this, causes tensions to run high. Because it kind of goes back on itself where the worst person in this book is not the person that society would deem the worst person. Now, I'm not saying if you go to prison you're a bad person, but I am saying that this is what society is like. So, Millie in this is a very nice character to follow. She doesn't back down, she doesn't take shit, but she also knows that in order to help herself, she kind of needs to live through some things. And that's what Nina puts her through. Nina puts her through, all the shit. If I was working for this employer, I would have quit within like a week. I would not be doing this. Although, if the money was good enough, I would maybe take this bullshit. Depends how much they were paying me. I would not live there though. I would not live on this premises, which is what Millie does. There is also like a creepy daughter that comes in, and you're like, oh, that's I don't know how I would handle like a creepy kid because I watch way too many horror films, and as soon as this creepy kid came into this book, I was like, is that going to be part of the plot? Like, is this kid going to be like super creepy and evil like her mom? But this book totally turned itself on its head. The POV shift completely changed everything, and I had a wild time. I did give this 4 stars, I believe. I did. I did. I gave this a 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I feel like she done a good job not being predictable while still like there was a predictability to some things, but it still managed to surprise me. And with everything that happened in the third act, I feel like this book took on a bit more of a different spin than I was expecting, which I really enjoyed. Also, the characters were really well written. I do think that this author wrote these characters really well, and same goes for the sequel. So in the sequel, it's kind of like a new story. We still follow Millie, but she's living kind of a different life. After the events of the first book, she's moved and she's taking college courses, and she has a boyfriend and she's living her life. But again, she gets caught up in a shitty situation. So she starts being a housemaid for this couple, and she believes the wife may be in danger from the husband. Now, because I had read the first book, I thought I knew where this book was going to go because it kind of had the same formulaic, this is how the author's gonna write the sequel because it's the way they wrote the first book. It felt very similar. But again, there's a POV shift, which is the exact same thing that happened in the first book, but this time the outcome was different from the first book. So the first book's outcome, even though the formula was the exact same as each other, and even though we followed the same main character, the outcomes were completely different, which I did appreciate and enjoy. Both of these books were fast paced. Both of them had really well written characters, and the POV shift halfway through a book can be really jarring sometimes, but I do feel like it was done exceptionally well here. And it, you know, that kind of gimmick, that kind of like transition or technique was used to its ability fully in these books for me. I gave both of these 4 stars. I highly recommend them. I read them back to back as well. So if you're looking for something that is fast paced, entertaining, predictable, but yet surprising with well written characters, I would highly recommend these. They're also available on Kindle Unlimited, so if you have that subscription, you do not need to go out and buy these books. You can just read them on your Kindle. Next, we have another reread, Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. Again, I originally listened to this on audiobook. So, with this and The Night Swim, I listened to these on audiobook and gave them both 5 stars when I originally listened to them. So, I wanted to have physical copies because I rated them so highly so that I could show you when I recommend these books, but also so I could like have a different rereading experience with them. And it worked really well with both of them. I still enjoy them very much so, but I do really like the audiobook for this. This one, not so much the same as The Night Swim. The Night Swim, I recommend the audiobook over the physical book. This one, I would say go either or. This like format in the book is just as well done as the format in the audiobook. I will say the audiobook does give like a little bit more life to this simply because in this we follow Maggie who has lived her whole life in the shadow of the book. So when she was younger, her mum, and her dad went to Branbury Hall. This was a house that they bought. It was more like a mansion, and it had like a really bad history of people dying in here. Great. I mean, let's move into the haunted house. Kind of gave American Horror Story vibes when they first moved in, the first season. So they move in, and then weird things start to happen. They flee in the middle of the night, never to return. And then 25 years later, I couldn't remember if it's 20 or 25. 25 years later, her dad dies, and Maggie has only ever experienced the book. Her dad wrote a best selling book about Banbury Hall, and is it Bainbury or Branbury? Bainbury, about Bainbury Hall and their experiences there. But the thing is she believes that these experiences of the supernatural were all lies. She does not believe a thing, and it's all fictional for this book. But her dad still determined that she should not go back to this house. Well, she does, and her story picks up from there. I really love this. This is my favorite Riley Sager, and also I can't help it. Look at the flop. Look at the flop. I can't help but like play with this book because I love floppy books. It's distracting me. So the gimmick or the showstopper of this book is that you get like present day Maggie going back to Bainbury Hall, and then you get glimpses or chapters of the fictionalized version of what happened at Bainbury Hall when she was younger. And I just think that this was a brilliant way to tell this story. I love when Riley Sager straddles the line of supernatural because you just don't know where he's going to go with it. Is it going to be realistic ending and an answer to all the creepy things, or is it going to be a supernatural ending? You just don't know. And I really like when he straddles that line because in this book, I believe he does it perfectly. The first time I read this, I had no idea if it was going to be supernatural or if it was going to be based in reality. And the whole way through it, it was kind of like he was gaslighting me. It was kind of like this is what is on paper as the book. So you want to believe that this is what happened because the book is like the House of Horror book, the book that her dad wrote was like very well done and very entertaining in its own right. So you're like, oh my god, this is a really creepy, like supernatural horror book within a thriller book. And you just didn't quite know where it was going. And you just didn't believe anything because nothing was, you didn't know where it was going to go one way or another to believe certain things or believe you were being lied to. And I think that's why this is one of my favorite Riley Sagers, because it just mind fucked me. It was just like, what is going on? Is there ghosts? Is there not? Why is there snakes in the ceiling? You know, is she gonna be safe going back to this house? Is this house absolutely ordinary and this was her father's claim to fame? You did not know. I loved this. I gave it 5 stars first time. I gave it 5 stars the second time. It is my favorite Riley Sager, and I highly recommend you pick this up if you haven't already. Next, we have The Soulmate by Sally Hempworth. This is the first book I ever read from this author, and in this we follow Gabe and Pippa, who bought their dream house. Unfortunately, their dream house overlooks a cliff that certain people go to when they are in a bad mental space, let's say. This cliff is known for lost souls. And Gabe has been able to talk people back from the edge and help people when he needs to. They phone the police, like it's a known thing. But one day, this woman shows up, Gabe can't help her, and she falls off this cliff, or she jumps off this cliff. You're not quite sure what happens. All you know is that she is dead. I really liked the one thing I liked about the story is that we got, the perspective of Pippa, the wife, and her kind of thoughts as to what was going on and if she was remembering things correctly, and like just her trust in her husband was kind of like at odds with what we were getting from the dead woman, because the dead woman is actually a POV in this, which I really did enjoy, because you kind of got more glimpses into certain aspects with her POV that you wouldn't get with Pippa's. So I did really enjoy that kind of, way of telling this story. Unfortunately, this only got a 3 star for me. I just think that it was a little bit too mundane for me. Like the gothic horror setting of this lovely, beautiful house filled with children and happiness set on a cliff that lost souls go to when they don't know where else to go when they're at their wits end. um like this could have been such a gothic and morose setting with the untrust running rampant around the community. Like it could have been something that it just wasn't. It was a bit too mundane for me. The characters, although I did like Pippa and her sister's girlfriend, I felt like they were great additions. I just didn't feel like they pushed it far enough. Like I would have liked her sister and her sister's girlfriend to be more a part of the story, and I would have liked a bigger reveal, like something more, just more. That's all I can really say about this book. It was well written. It was it wasn't fast paced. I think this was middle of the road for speed wise. I did take longer to read this than I normally do with thrillers, and I think it's because again, it was similar with A Twisted Love Story by Samantha Downing. Um, I just felt like it was kind of boring. So it did take me a bit longer to get through. And although the writing was really good and the characters were really well written, the plot just didn't do it for me. But I will be picking up more from this author because I do believe I could find something to love from this author, considering her writing was so well done in this book. And if you're looking for that kind of, like mistrust in a marriage and, secrets that come to light um in a small community, then I would recommend this. I just don't think that it's one that I would recommend a lot or highly. It was middle of the road, it was fine. It was fine. And I do hope that if I pick up another book from this author, I will have a ball of a time. Next, here I have Just the Nicest Couple by Mary Kubica. I was interested in this because it just sounds like my kind of thriller. It follows Jake Hayes, who goes missing, and his wife Nina is absolutely distraught looking for him. She has no idea where he went. no idea why he went missing. Like they had an argument. She expected him to come back like a normal married couple would. That didn't happen. And her colleague slash best friend Lily has a story to tell. She knows where Jake Hayes was before he went missing, and she may know the reason why he's missing. But she can never tell Nina. But she does tell her husband, and together they decide to cover up that they know where Jake Hayes was last seen in order to cover their own asses, essentially. I thought this book was good. Again, this was another 3 star, unfortunately. This was it was fast. Like, see, the first half of this book had me it had me. I was there, I was here, I was with it. And I wanted to know what happened, and everything was, making sense and leading up to like a burning question. But the second half of this book kind of lost steam for me. There's like the second part. So the second part of the second act was like just slow. It felt like nothing happened. And then the third act kicked off and it started to make more sense. And then it got a bit predictable. So unfortunately, this was just not for me, even though it really does sound like a book I would really enjoy. It just didn't quite hit where I wanted it to hit. I believe the first half of this book would be a 4 stars, but overall 3 stars because the ending just, left a little bit to be desired. I also feel like the big reveal at the end was kind of like lackluster. I had something in mind. I had something in mind for this to be like, how? Like, if the person that I wanted to do the thing that I wanted to do happened, this would have been mind blowing. I would have been like, why? How? Explain. I need more. But what ended up happening was it just kind of felt like not a cop out. I wouldn't say it was a cop out because it all made sense, it all wrapped up. Like, I understand why she done what she done with the ending, but it just could have been something. It had so much potential and it just missed the mark for me, unfortunately. But if you're looking for like friendships that keep secrets and marriages that are, maybe a little bit toxic and love that is never quite you never quite know who you're sleeping next to. This is one of those books where it's very much reminiscent of like mm, you never quite know a person. So in this book, that comes through as its faults. Like, even if you think you know someone, even if you're married to them, even if you sleep in the same bed as them, they can still surprise you. And that's what this book is. So I would recommend this if you like that kind of thing. Unfortunately, it just didn't hit for me. I do think I will pick up more from Mary Kabika. I have one of her other books somewhere in here. I don't know what it is called. Um, when the Lights Go Out, that's the one I have. So I'll probably be reading that in an upcoming video, an upcoming thriller reviews video. I plan on taking these out just whenever I have enough thrillers to fill out a video. Let me know in the comments if you like this and if you have any recommendations. And let's move on to the next book. The next book I have here is one that probably everyone has heard of. It's The Only One Left by Riley Sager, and I really enjoyed this. I gave that 5 star. I believe Riley Sager has become, one of those authors that's an auto buy author for me. I haven't gave all of his books a 5 star, and I still haven't read one of his books. So I need to go back and justify that, rectify that. That's the word I'm looking for. English is hard. So yeah, I read The Only One Left because it was an anticipated book for me, and I will read anything Riley Sager takes out. This one was very interesting. We follow Kit, who is an out of work care worker who decides that she has no option but to take this very shitty job. No, she doesn't decide that because she has no choice. She is an out of care worker and she is like on suspension from her job. And she goes back to get a assignment, and her boss is like, "This is the only assignment we have for you, which is to go take care of Lenora Hope." Now, Lenora Hope is responsible for the Hope family massacre. She was never like jailed or put through trial or, charged for any of this, but it is a well known secret in the town that she done this. So she has no choice but to take this because it's either suspension and no work or take this job. So she decides to take it. Now, in this book, we get like two different timelines. We get like flashbacks to the past when the Hope family mansion was alive and well and, dazzling, and then we get the now time, and it's just told through little snippets of letters that Lenora writes. I did really enjoy this. I do feel like maybe the ending kind of was a little bit cheapened because there was like twist, 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 and I don't think that it needed to do that. I think there was one twist at the very end of this book that I think could have been left up to the reader to decide. But yeah, like it's not going to be for everyone, but I really enjoyed it. I read this really fast. Riley Sager has a way of creating such a great atmosphere. Again, I throw back to Home Before Dark. Bainbury Hall was a character in and of itself, and the Hope family mansion again is this gothic, crumbling piece of real estate that used to be dazzling and is now more like gothic and decrepit, um and abandoned essentially. They can't keep it up as well as they could with such low staff and low funds. So yeah, like the Mansion took on a character of its own. And I believe Lock Every Door as well. Sager has such a good way of making places seem like characters of themselves. And it just really worked for me in this and Home Before Dark and Lock Every Door. And I do think this is where he shines most. And there was, again, that kind of supernatural, won't he, what's going on element, which I do enjoy when he does this because I like being on that line. I like being like, are you leading me this way to then swap and bring me back here, or am I here and I should be over here? Sager does a really good job at doing that, and this book was no different. I do think two things in this book were predictable, and one of the twists didn't need to be there. But overall, as a story, it was fast paced, it was well written, the characters were really well written, the atmosphere was really well done, and I just couldn't not give this 5 stars. I read it in like 2 days, and I had a great time doing it. So if you're in the mood for like a kind of gothic, secret horror vibe, yet thriller writing atmosphere, I would really recommend this one. Um, yeah, I think that's I I swear I can talk. Sometimes it may not seem like it, but I swear I can't actually use words in English that make sense. Sometimes I just struggle. And that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any thrillers you would like me to read and tell you my thoughts about, please let me know down below. I can do these videos spoiler free and so everyone can enjoy. And if there's any requests for spoiler portions, I can do these videos with spoiler and spoiler free sections so that you can enjoy these videos even if you've read the books or not read the books. So if you do end up recommending me a thriller and want more spoilery opinions, I can create a section in these thriller review videos just for you. So let me know in the comments if you would like me to read anything. Apart from that, I am all done. So thank you so very much for watching. I hope you have a great day, a great week, a great weekend, whenever the hell you're watching this. Remember to stay safe, happy, and healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye.